Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's time for another edition of our Thinking Outside the Bots podcast. Today is Thursday, June the 1st of 2023. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. This is now June. Where is the time going? It seems like we're just speeding here, going through the year super duper fast. Well, that's not the only thing that's happening pretty fast. A lot of the markets right now are on a collision course path, you could say, path, crossroads, however you want to say it. There's many ways you can say it. I'll give you just a little foretaste. Case in point, look at your Bitcoin futures down 60 right now at 27,015 after hitting the 26,000 handle in the overnight market. Just when you thought that Bitcoin was going to get bullish for you. Well, the truth is, it's been a bear market rally. That's all. And now the market is looking to reclaim the price action. Ethereum also struggling right now. It's only up 50 cents at $1,870.50. All right. After hitting $1,845.50 in the overnight market. Crude oil is still weak. It's up 6 cents at $68.14 a barrel. Your net gas is at $2.18. And I still believe it's going to hit $1.50 before it gets a chance to take off. Gold right now up $3.10 an ounce at $1,985.20 per ounce. Silver is up a penny at $23.60 per ounce. And yeah, when you take a look at the gold market, yeah, it's in a bull market. When you take a look at the silver market, yeah, it's in a bull market. But there's a difference between these two metals. Firstly, silver is in a bull market with bullish trend momentum behind it. Gold, however, has taken a pause in the bullish sentiment and has been on the decline with a bearish trend momentum reading. Now, we have not hit a continuation pattern downside move in gold this morning yet. And as far as silver is concerned, it has not continuation pattern either. Both markets are quiet and pretty much flat at the moment. Moving along, you take a look here at the Dow. It's now down 108 points at 32,874, which means the 33,000 handle has not held. Market closed below it yesterday and looks like it's going to do the same again today. And this is on back of some news that came out with the employment situation. A lot of mixed signals in that department, I should say. The report numbers are not giving, the officials the information they want to see. It's too mixed. So tomorrow's report is going to be more important and carry a lot more weight. And we'll see if their agenda is moving along the lines. Right now, it's not. Remember, they want to see higher unemployment. They want to see further job cuts. And they're not really seeing it right now. Looking at the S&P 500, it's down 2 points at 4188.5. It failed to hold the $42 support, which was a critical psychological support level, and looking to repeat that same sentiment today. NASDAQ 100 down 13.5 at 14,289.25. It too has been giving you downside production from the crash alert the previous day, which is continuing to play out this morning. To be fair, these markets have not tripwired for the morning yet. Once they do, it means that the markets are pulse waving and we will see new lows today. If these intraday price inflection points are not triggered, then we have a situation where the market has stalled. So just FYI there. Looking at the Russell is only up 0.9 at 1752.7 after hitting 1749 in the overnight market. Again, this too is not continuating its downside negative momentum yet, but it is still weak and it is closed far below its range as well. It failed to hit, or should I say, take out the 1800 and then the 1850, respectively, which are the upside two major resistance point hurdles for the Russell. It is struggling to do that and instead moving downward. The bear market in the Russell has reclaimed the price action. That's pretty much what you're seeing here. Now, it should be noted, though, you still have a bullish trend momentum reading for now, but another down day like yesterday, and I'm sure I'll probably lose that. But right now, you still do. So, technically speaking, any pullbacks and dips here can be looked at as a buying opportunity. But just remember, when you take an aggressive stance against a counter trend move or play like you have in the Russell, 9 times out of 10, the major trend force does tend to kick in. So when you see a counter trend trade losing its momentum, that's usually a good solid indicator that the trend is about to reclaim the price action. All right, so that's just something to think about as we are moving forward. Your grains are finally catching a bid after being mollywopped for the past several trading sessions. Soybeans are up 23. We got beans in the teens. I did tell you about that. I was talking to someone about that not long ago. And yeah, we got the beans in the teens. We're in the July contract for now. Corn up almost 10 at 603. And wheat is at $6.10 a bushel, up 16. So finally starting to look like the market wants to do a little something, something. We'll see. I've been eyeing this wheat too. Now, corn, wheat, and soybeans. All right, here's the play. Corn is wide open, bull market, bullish trend momentum reading. Soybeans, however, is showing that it's neutralized for today, along with wheat. Both of these markets are neutralized for today, which means that when we have a neutralized market, we normally step aside that market until it comes off neutralized. When a market is in a neutralized state, it's a little bit different, but it is akin to a consolidation, all right, or a congested area. But unlike a basic consolidation or congested area, a neutralized market is for all intents and purposes, a flatlined market, meaning that the day that it goes on neutralized to the day that it comes off neutralized, 9 times out of 10, it will be the exact same price. It's a market phenomenon that happens and occurs. Not as often as you would think, but it does happen. And when it does happen, we have to just stand aside and let the market do what it do. I think one of the most famous cases of long-term neutralized markets would be the Russell. The Russell has had 2 time periods within the last decade where it consolidated for like 2 months straight. I'm not kidding. And there's nothing you can do about that. The market's just not doing anything. So you have to look for other opportunities. Or if you want to be a maverick, you can go in there and try to bang something out every day. But the crumbs that are left on the table, it's not even worth it. It's better just to be patient and wait, let the market come out of consolidation, find something else to trade during that process. And then when it comes off neutralized, then you can go in and make your plays. Now, the other caveat is if you're already in a position when the market goes on neutralized, let's say for example, the market was bullish, you got in, market's moving up, giving you upside production. Then all of a sudden now it's neutralized. You can use that as a opportunity to either hold your position and just be prepared to tighten up your stops, or use that as a signal to get out of your position altogether, and then wait for the market to come off neutralize, and then you can decide what you want to do at that point. Just some tips and tricks as far as reading these markets. And if you want to know more about the strategies that I'm talking about, you're definitely going to want to go to pulsewavetrading.com and sign up for the price trigger reports. These reports are unlike anything you've ever seen because it will notify you of the current market conditions of any market you're looking to trade, and will tell you exactly how to approach that market. All right, so as you see here, markets are kind of quiet for now, mixed, kind of all over the place. And that is our morning snapshot, just to give you an idea of what has been happening since the overnight markets. Now, we've been talking about the debt ceiling debate, or should I say fiasco, debacle, and it still has not been resolved. They claim they found more money, so they were able to push the date beyond today. Today is June the 1st. Today was that date that they said the government runs out of money, but now they say we have until June the 5th. How convenient, right? But that's not the real story. I mean, the debt ceiling is important. Don't get me wrong, because if the government can't pay out those SSI checks, then you're going to have civil war. But the true nature of things that's going on right now is something that I used to say a lot back on the Wide Awake news show with the late great Charlie McGrath, and that's America dying the death of 1,000 cuts. So many things happening all at once. Now, some analysts like to call today's America's economic financial situation as an everything bubble. And I look at it a little bit different. I look at it as an everything collapse. It's not just the economy that's on the verge of collapsing or is technically collapsing, but you got infrastructure that is collapsing. All right. You got a lot of things that are collapsing. We're in far more trouble than most people realize. You see, in recent months, our rapidly growing economic problems have gotten a lot of attention, and without a doubt, our economy is heading into really, really, really hard times. The greatest debt bubble in the history of the world has already started to implode. And the end of this mega cycle is going to cause an immense amount of pain. But if every other element of our society was strong, perhaps America would survive that. However, it may surprise a lot of you to hear that. So, what if that's true? If all that we were facing was an economic collapse, it would cause an enormous amount of turmoil in the country, but we would make it through, i.e., the Great Depression. We made it through that. The country's still here. Unfortunately, we are not just facing an economic collapse, though. What we are facing is the everything collapse, because virtually every element of American society is steadily breaking down right in front of our eyes. So once the economic and financial systems implode, it won't just be a matter of patching them up and returning to normal, because normal doesn't exist anymore. Sort of like they told you during the medical crisis. They said, this is the new normal. There is no going back to the way things were. That's what they told you. All right. So take, for example, The president of Giant Food, which is a grocery store chain on the East Coast in the DMV, the DC, Maryland, Virginia zone, they just admitted to the Washington Post that theft at its stores is completely out of control. Giant Food President Ira Kress said that theft and violence have risen significantly over the past several years. To say theft has risen tenfold in the last 5 years would not be an understatement, Kress noted, according to the Washington Post, which also reported that the man said that violence has increased exponentially. Giant has more than 160 locations, with stores located in Maryland, Virginia, and Washington, D.C., and Delaware, according to its website. Now, I got to tell you, as far as Giant Food is concerned, it's a staple in the DMV. Okay, it's been here forever. Izzy Cohen, I believe, was the founder, and he passed a long time ago. And I don't know anyone who lived in the tri-state area that didn't at some point, maybe during high school or maybe even college, that didn't work at Giant Food. We all worked there. Um, the one that I worked at was one of the gourmet giants. And the gourmet giants was akin to the Walmart supercenters. They were the largest grocery store because it had like all the different departments in it. It was like a football field when you walked into it. It was just super huge. And, a lot of wealthy people and upper middle class people shopped at the gourmet giants because, things were quite expensive up in there. Giant was never the cheapest place in town. It was always super expensive. And on average, I would say the average grocery cart bill that I would see people come up with was like $600. And we're talking back in the 1980s. Okay. Imagine that one grocery cart filled up though was $600. And that was the average. I remember one time a lady came in. I think she only had one bag of groceries with like those long breads, they're hard on the outside but soft on the inside, those long breads. She had a bag of that and maybe I think a two boxes of chocolate, and it was over $100. Again, this is back in the 1980s. All right, just to give you an idea about what I'm talking about. And like I said, Giant Food was a staple in the community. A lot of people retired, worked their whole lives there, and retired from there. I got extended family members that retired from there. Me and my brothers even worked there. I have an uncle that worked there. We all worked there at one point. And back in high school, it was fun working there. To be honest with you, we had a lot of fun. Times were different back then. So we have a lot of memories when it comes to Giant Food. Most of the memories are pleasant. Got a lot of fun stories and things like that. So to hear this article in the Washington Post is startling to say the least. But it's saying something about our society too. It's saying a lot about our society. Hold on one second. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back. That's the problem about doing live shows. Sometimes important phone calls will come, and I had to take it. So, where was I? Yeah, so I think this is saying a lot about the culture. Now, I will say this to be fair, something that's not included in the Washington Post article is that giant food did undergo a major transformation after Izzy died. All right. They changed everything. They changed a lot of stuff. It wasn't the same place. I'm not saying it was necessarily bad, but it just wasn't the same atmosphere, if that makes sense. Just a different atmosphere altogether. So I got to tell you, I never witnessed a single shoplifting incident back then. I can't say that I have a memory where I remember someone being arrested for shoplifting. I'm not saying people didn't shoplift, because obviously people did, but not like now. I never saw anyone do it. Uh, the thing about the neighborhood giant grocery store too back then was that everybody knew everybody. So the people that worked there, were your family and friends and schoolmates and stuff. So, and like I said, a lot of people they retired from there. They worked there their whole life. So when you went in there, the atmosphere was different because you knew everyone. They knew you. It was like watching the old reruns of Lucy. Whenever Lucy would go to the store, the butcher knows everyone by name. He will hook you up. Even give you credit, stuff, all types of stuff. I mean, it's just a different environment. But that's kind of how it felt. It was like a small town, Mayberry with Opie and Andy and all that. That's kind of how it felt. So when you went in there, again, you knew them by name, they knew you by name. Hey, what's up, Mr. So and so? How's everybody doing? Whatever. And I mean, it was close knit like that. Like, you hanging out outside of work hours, being invited to each other's houses for barbecues and stuff. It's just a different environment. I don't remember violence at the giant food. I don't remember shoplifting inside of the giant food. However, now we have systematic looting, and it's happening on an industrial scale all over the nation. In fact, retailers are saying that they're losing about $100 billion a year due to shoplifting. Not only that, but other forms of crime are spiking as well. Violent crimes are increasingly being committed by kids, children. Think about this for a minute. You expect when you think of crime, in the back of your mind, you're thinking about, the man with the ski mask and maybe a 12-inch blade knife waiting for someone to come into the alley, or a gun. You're thinking about that. You're not thinking about a little kid. All right? Just think about that. Now, the article states that as soon as he confronted the masked youth who seemed to be trying to rob him with a gun, and this happened on Irving Street in Northwest DC, Ryan Cummins knew the assailant was young. When I shoved him, he weighed nothing, Cummins said in an interview. That's small child, that's adolescent. Police said the youth they arrested in Cummings' case and two nearby robberies is even younger. He's 11 years old. He is among the youngest arrested in the district this year. The youngest, 11 years old, robbing someone. And on the West Coast, now, see, we're talking about the East Coast. Giant food is East Coast. But on the West Coast, conditions are even worse. Check out this one San Francisco resident named Seema Gokhel, recently described living in the heart of the city is like this. Speaking with Fox News Digital, Seema, who lives near the city's Tenderloin neighborhood, expressed, "It really feels post apocalyptic. Something needs to be done. We have to make this a livable place. I described it as a hellhole right now. If I wasn't a homeowner and hadn't grown up in the area and there wasn't a strong job market in the area, I would leave. I walk by people regularly and it feels horrible," she said, "as drug addicts have needle tracks all over their arms and legs and toes. I see people with rotting limbs because they're living on the streets. It honestly feels like I'm in a place that's been in a zombie apocalypse. It's like a dystopia. It really feels like a dystopian reality right now where I see boarded up storefronts. I see people defecating on the streets," she detailed. Disgusting, isn't it? Just to hear that. It's sad that this is the direction that the entire country is going. Now, it could be easily dismissed if it was just one little localized area, but it's the entire country. East Coast, West Coast, doesn't matter. Up in Portland, voters are completely and totally fed up with the rampant social decay that has been steadily growing all around them. Months of stepping past sidewalk homeless camps and open air drug markets have taken their toll on the residents of Portland. Voters have delivered a stunning rebuke to officials of the Democrat run hipster city, with three quarters calling homelessness an out of control disaster. The survey, commissioned by People for Portland, a conservative advocacy group, found that more than two-thirds of voters wanted to clear the streets by forcing drug addicts into rehab. But no matter what the politicians do, the social decay gets worse with each passing year. And that is because the entire American culture has been completely transformed. According to one recent survey, only 16% of Americans now attend church at least once per week. The number of Americans who attended church once a week fell from 19% in 2019 to 16% last year, says the survey of some 6,600 adults across all 50 states. This means that 84% of Americans do not attend church at least once per week at this point. If we could go back and tell Americans from 100 years ago about this, they would absolutely be floored. They wouldn't believe us. Of course, the truth is that there are completely different country dynamics than there were 100 years ago. And many of us like to think that we are superior to every generation that has come before us. But the reality of the matter is that just about every aspect of our society is rapidly getting worse. And we're having this much difficulty keeping order now. What are things going to look like once our economic and financial systems have fully imploded and tens of millions of Americans are deeply suffering and or homeless? You might want to think about that because the everything collapse is only going to pick up steam in the weeks and months ahead. That's a lot to digest, I know. It's doom and gloom, but you need to hear it. We're at a point now where you can no longer just shrug off the doom and the gloom. You have to embrace it. You have to deal with it. You have to come to terms with it. Just because you may be okay doesn't mean that the world around you is not falling apart. And that's what we have here. The world around you is steadily falling apart. What are you going to do about it? Are you prepared? Have you seriously thought about the continuing economic conditions of the United States and its deterioration? How is this country going to look in 6 months, 6 years even? Is it going to become a rotting corpse? You know, back in the early 1990s, I want to say around, but it was somewhere between 94 and 96. This radio show is no longer on the air, but it was called the Janet Parshall's America radio show. And you could hear it in the DMV area on WAVA, WAVA. And I forget the name of the guest and the name of the company or the outfit they were from, but this guest, they had run a model and they had studied the rise and fall of dynasties throughout the centuries, including the fall of Rome. And they looked at all the world superpowers throughout history and how long they lasted. And the average lifespan of a world superpower on average is 200 years. That means that if a nation is a superpower and it runs the world, on average, it will only be able to do so for an average of 200 years. There was only one exception in world history, and that exception was Rome. Rome lasted for approximately 500 years. It ruled for 500 years before it totally collapsed. And there are some characteristics that you take into account that act as signals of where you are in the nation's decline. Because, you have these phases, but there are some characteristics that let you know when the clock starts running, the countdown. And one thing that these nations all had in common was a sexual revolution. Once the nations encountered sexual revolution, the countries collapsed within, I think they said, 3 generations. Yeah. Now, depending on how you calculate a generation, some people count a generation as 20 years. Some do it 30 to 33 years. So depending on how you want to calculate that, this country had its revolution in the 1960s. So a generation, if you want to round it up, you could just say a generation is 100 years. So if that's if or I'm sorry, you could say 3 generations is 100 years. So if you use the 30-year model, whatever. All right. So if that's the case, we had 1960s. We're in the 20s now. So that would mean that within the next less than 40 years, I would say 37, within the next 37 years, the United States will have completely and utterly collapsed as a world superpower. And it will go the way of all the other nations before it. And in this model that they ran, they looked at what the ramifications and repercussions would be once America bows out gracefully from history. And one of those situations would be that the nation would no longer be policing the rest of the world. All of its military bases outside of the U.S. would be shut down, defunct, emptied out, and the nation would just turn inwardly. It would become a closed society like China was for thousands of years. All right, without the Great Wall around it, but it would just turn inwardly, and it just wouldn't be spoken of anymore. It would basically become a third world country with no meaning, with no big footprint on the global scale. It would be minuscule. It wouldn't even be worth talking about. It would just turn inwardly, close its borders, and just deal with what's going on on the home front, because there'll be too many fires to put out and too much going on. So superpower status gone, everything else gone, just third world country, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, the country turns inwardly and bows out of history gracefully. That is what the models were showing. Yeah, if it, like I said, depends on how you calculate it. If you say, a generation is 20 years, right? That means, and they say within 3 generations, so that's 60 years. Yeah, we're running out of time. Technically speaking, we're there now. If you use a 20-year calculation, then that's only 60 years, and we are there. From 1960 to now is 63 years. So we're already there. All right. Now, for those that are listening that doubt what is being said, all you got to do is look around you. You don't have to be an economist or a statistician or even some big historian or researcher. Just look around you. Is this the same country that you remember 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago? No, 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 and no. It's different. And you have to admit that. All right, folks. You know what we do in these podcasts. I try not to keep you long. I try to keep it about 30 minutes or so. And we've gone over that time limit. So I think we're done here for the day. I'm going to try to get more consistent with these podcasts. I want to do them every morning, in place of the old school pre-market post-wave report. So that's what I'm looking to do. And as time will permit, I will continue to do these. And I got to tell you, man, we are living under that old Chinese curse of interesting times. America is living in interesting times. And a lot of it is due to her own doing. But we'll discuss more aspects of the how we got here in our next podcast. In the meantime, tomorrow's Friday, Take Back Friday, and it's also a jobs report, I think it is. It's supposed to be pretty big, a big deal. So you want to be prepared for that. And I will see you guys back here on Monday. So enjoy your weekend. Actually, no, I'll see you back here tonight because I have the end of day report to do. So see you back here tonight. And then I'll say have a great weekend. So with that being said, peace. See you in the next one.